Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're so excited. We are joined by former BLM activist and now PragerU personality, Xaviaer DuRousseau. Xaviaer, welcome to the show. I think your story is so interesting. And shockingly, I have heard similar stories to yours. And that's why it's all the more fascinating, because I feel like we really have people in this country who feel like, oh, maybe things are not as they have been advertised to me. Tell me a little more about your story. Tell our audience sort of about how you ended up at PragerU.
Of course, and thank you for having me. There's an entire wave of people right now who are finally waking up from the lies of the left. I spent pretty much my entire life being on the left wing. I was very liberal, even identified as a democratic socialist for a while, even though I had no idea what that actually meant. But I was born in Chicago in a really rough neighborhood, and I always describe it as being like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but backwards, where my brother got into trouble. So my mom and dad moved the entire family to the middle of nowhere cornfield so that we would have a better opportunity at life, essentially. But what that did is it put us in a town that was only maybe 10,000 people. It was predominantly white. And because of that, I was always being told that I had to hyper focus on race. I was told that everything should be viewed through race, that I should never trust white people. And the older I got, the more I had this complex of how can I be more black and more woke? So I ended up getting to the point where things were so woke in 2020. I had been an activist for so many years already online with BLM that when things with George Floyd happened, I was right there marching. I was leading some of the events and getting more people to be allies, quote unquote, of BLM. And then essentially in the same time period, I got cast for a reality show where I was supposed to be teaching people how to be BLM activists. And to prepare for the show, I started doing my research, and I wanted to make an entire series debunking PragerU. And that was going to be my huge project after I came back from the reality show. And as I was doing the research of this, I just one by one kept dismantling my own narrative. I kept debunking my own sources, and it completely shattered the indoctrination that I had my entire life. So I backed out of the show. I took a couple months to, humble myself a bit, get through that mortified process. And then I decided I had to speak out on what I learned. I had to speak out as essentially a new person with conservative values, and the rest was history. I feel very blessed that I'm now on the right side of history and fighting for truth.
Wow. I mean, by the way, let me just say, I think it takes such a unique person to be able to really look at something and say, I was wrong about that. Like that is not an easy thing to do, Xaviaer. And so the fact that you were going through, I saw like an interview that you had done previously, and you basically said you red pilled yourself, right? And you said something like it wasn't just one red pill, it was like the entire bottle, because you had, right, like time after time, all of these things, you were like, let me just go through PragerU. I'm going to break down why this is wrong. And then you kept figuring out, it takes a lot to do that. Do you think that other people could follow in those footsteps? And if you allowed them, would you ever see this happening? Or what do you think was unique about you that allowed you to do that? Because that's hard to do.
A lot of people are already doing it. And if there's anything that warms my heart in this, like in the space that we're in, is when people come up to me and say that they found my videos and they're like, well, you know what, let me go down the rabbit trail myself. And it's happening. It's happening with my friends, my family, and people that I've never met. And with me particularly, I pride myself in integrity. I always say that it wasn't my values that changed, it was my perspective. Back then I thought I was fighting for freedom and equality and truth, but I was just wrong in the way I was going about it. And now I can truly say that I'm fighting for freedom, equality, and truth. So when I had humbled myself over and over and over with that prescription pill bottle worth of red pills, I knew that if I was going to have any integrity and be this person that I had been saying that I was for so long, that I had to keep speaking out, but with a new perspective and telling people that, you know what, I got it wrong. And it's happening more every single day. I actually have a very recent video that's going viral on TikTok right now where I asked this girl a very simple question. I was interviewing people at West Hollywood's Pride event. And I said to her, I said, what do you think of white men? And she's like, oh, like immediately no, and like starts going off about white people. I said, okay, what do you think about black people? And she said she loves them. So I said, why is it that you feel that way about white people? And she continues to say that she's had some bad experiences around white people, so now she has this disposition. And I said, well, if people felt that same way about black people, they had bad experiences with black people, would it be racist of them to say that they feel that certain ick around black people? And she's like, wow, I never looked at it that way. She didn't think that it's racist to attack white people, but she did, or sorry, she thought it was race, or sorry, no,
No,
she
you
thought
had it
it was
right.
not
She didn't
racist to
think
attack
that.
white people.
Yeah, a lot of people. I feel like that's the case. Like basically, it's kind of like you could say whatever you want about white people, and it's just you're good to go. Then this is all warranted. That is so interesting. Do you obviously you made an impression with her? I would love if you like followed up with her. Did you get her info? Like what's going to happen with this?
I do have her info. I'm going to see if I can try to get a hold of her because
Oh
at the end
wow.
of the video, she just completely saw my point. And we had a little discourse after it. And she was a very sweet person. She's just one of those people who means well, but is misguided by social media, misguided by this culture she's around, especially in West Hollywood. And now she's realizing racism is racism. It doesn't matter
Correct.
who's on the other side.
Well, and I think that it's great that you're out there doing that. First of all, let me ask you, do I need to get on TikTok? I'll tell you, I have not gotten on TikTok because my father-in-law back in the day when he was president was basically very stringent with his views on this. And he said that TikTok was obviously owned by Chinese and that the Chinese were going to spy on us and this whole thing. I never got on TikTok because of that. I downloaded it on my phone for like a day. And then I remember him being like, China's spying on us. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Should I be on TikTok? Because I feel like what we need to start doing, Xavier, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, is in order to reach people in the way you did with this woman, we've got to, as conservatives, make our voices heard in every possible space. And I feel like we've really done a poor job of that in so many respects. As a party, I feel like the Republican Party kind of always wants to fit in this little box of like, well, this is how we, this is how we do campaigns, and this is how this, that, and the other happens. Obviously, Donald Trump disrupted a lot of that for them. But should I get on TikTok? Is that's where everybody is, right?
I will never recommend for someone to be on TikTok just
like
because
poison.
it's such
Should I take a
toxic
poison
place.
pill? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal out there. Since I already am on TikTok and being Gen Z, my entire life has been on social media. At this point, I just feel like anything China wants from me, they already have.
Probably
I
true.
pretty much feel like
They're probably spying on us right now.
They are.
I don't know who I'm kidding.
My FBI agent from China or whatever they have over there, they're always lurking on my feed. I'm telling you, they put little ads and stuff for me. They know my sense of humor and everything. I'm convinced. But no, I think it's important that we do infiltrate these spaces. I think it's important that we do continue to try to put our content on there. If someone isn't already on there, I say save yourself the stress. You will keep extra years on your life for so many reasons by not being on TikTok. But, I post my videos on there. If the algorithm does its thing and it does well, then I'm happy about it. If not, then I don't care. If they try to ban me, they've done it before. So I don't know. It's a catch-22 with TikTok for sure, but I say enter at your own risk.
I know. I just feel like every day I see like somebody else. I'm like, oh, they're on TikTok now too. Like maybe I should get involved with it. But I kind of feel like you're right. If I haven't gone down that path yet, why am I going to go there? But it seems like, look, I assume your goals are to make others aware as to the lies that are being spread and the misinformation that we're being fed as a society. Because, I mean, the truth is, like the woman you just told the story about, these are not bad people. I actually believe most people are very good people. And I think at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want our families to be safe. We all want success in our profession in some variety. We all want, the future to look brighter for our family than perhaps it was for us. Those are basics. And I think we can all kind of agree on those things. And I don't think just because you view things a certain way, you're a bad person. But there is a lot of that out there. There are a lot of people who don't feel like I do. And they think, oh, well, you're a bad person because you are a Republican, or you're a bad person because you're a Democrat. Is your goal then to just kind of debunk a lot of the information out there like you received that kind of put you into this place you first started?
Yes, for sure. How I like to put it is I like to plant seeds for people. Because when you present the truth to someone for the first time, they might just totally be in denial of it.
Yeah.
They might just rebuke everything you have to say. Because you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. And what happened with me is time and time again, these seeds of truth happened until finally it was just this garden of truth in front of me that I couldn't deny anymore. So what I try to do, I don't push my beliefs on people. I don't force them into a debate. I don't force them to believe anything that I believe. And I am even hesitant to say change people's minds. I like to lead people to truth and to information and ask them the proper questions so that they can get to the foundation of what it is that they believe and figure out, is this actually reality? And you
Yeah.
have to do it with love and you have to do it with grace, because part of why I was even open to going from being more liberal to now having conservative values is because so many conservatives showed me love and showed me grace when we disagreed on things. Now that I'm on the other side, I found that most liberals aren't as loving and tolerant as
Mm,
conservatives were to me when we
imagine.
disagreed. But shocker there, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be careful in how you approach it, and you have to have this mindset that whether or not they change their mind is up to them. All you can do is put the truth in front of people and be kind.
I mean, you're spot on. It's almost like, my husband has recently gotten into working out. And let me tell you, he looks great. He's doing great. I'm very excited about it. Just from a general health perspective, aesthetically, I'm very happy with it. But for a long time, I feel like I'd be like, "You want to go to the gym with me?" And he'd be like, "Not really." So finally, I was like, "Well, I'm going to stop pressuring him. I'm going to stop asking." And then he did it on his own, Xavier. So
Mhm.
I mean, we're kind of in a space like that with a lot of this. You can't force any of this on anyone, obviously. And I actually think when you try to force things like this, it makes people recoil in a way, and perhaps they
Yes.
completely shut down, and then they don't want to hear any more of what you have to say, or they don't start seeking more information on their own. Was there one single moment or one single bit of information that was really like your aha moment where you were like, oh my gosh, like I can't unsee this now, and I can't go back to thinking like I used to?
I would say the biggest moment was when I started tracing the money of the Black Lives Matter organization. Because I had questions for a while, even while I was still marching for BLM, of where is all this money going and what is actually happening behind the scenes. But I was often told to not ask questions. Like the first question I ever asked where I was getting skeptical of the BLM movement was when I saw white Antifa members destroying black cities and black businesses. And I was
Right.
literally told that I was focusing on the wrong things. I was like, okay, I guess we're not going to prioritize black businesses. But when that led to this rabbit trail of where's the money going? What is Act Blue? And why is
Mm.
all of this money going to left-wing organizations, progressive politicians, and all these people who could not care less about what's happening in the black community? That was the aha moment, because one thing I knew as a liberal and that I know as a conservative is that black and white do not matter nearly as much as green.
Gosh, that's true. I always said anybody that comes at me and they're like, Donald Trump is a racist. I'm like, by the way, you can go back 40 years in my father-in-law's company. The only color he's ever cared about is green in his company. It's all crazy. But you're right in that instance. And I feel like it's so great that there are people who are finally seeing the truth, because it is really scary. I have kids, they're young, but my kids are in school, and I think about things like critical race theory and teaching people to focus more so on the physical appearance of an individual than that person's actual character. And I can't see how we ultimately end up with a society that is intact in any variety if those are the sorts of things that we are teaching our children. Is this something that you think about? Are you working on? I mean, like, what do we do, Xavier? Because I think, look, a lot of parents are very frustrated and fed up with this and very concerned about our children learning basically the wrong morals and the wrong way to view the world and our country because of things like that.
That's very true. I like to quote our CEO here at PragerU, Marissa. She said that education is how we got into this mess, so education is how we get out of this mess. And a lot of people, when you push back against CRT, they're like, oh, so you don't want to teach Black history. You don't want to teach what happened with slavery. It's like, no, we want to teach real, true, unbiased, unfiltered history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But when you study history from a proper lens, what you see clearly is that America is not like most countries with injustices, because every country has injustices. But here in America, we have went out of our way and bent over backwards to right the wrongs that we have made in our past, because now we have such a free and equal society. And that progress didn't just happen overnight. We worked hard as a united country to get to where we are today. And that's why I love working with our PragerU Kids department, because in our kids department, we're all about history. History and American values are the entire foundation of what we're doing in our kids department. And when you talk about Booker T. Washington and MLK and all these different people, you talk about the good and the bad of what they went through, but ultimately what you see there is a pattern of triumph. So we need to lean into history and teach history, but it's not in the lens of hyper focus on the race of the person next to you. You're not being oppressed by the person sitting next to you. No, you are equals to that person, and that's why you're able to sit by them in the first place.
Yeah. By the way, Marissa Streit, she's the best. Love her. And I think, what you're saying about this country, we really need to make sure we're talking about, because it's so true. You can go to any country in the world and you can see that their history is not perfect. History is messy. There are horrible things that have happened, that have been done to people. None of it's nice and pretty, but we are a relatively young country, the United States of America. And because of that, we actually ought to give ourselves a little more credit, Xavier, for what we have done to create, a more equal playing field, to curb some of those things that we saw like, hey, this is wrong. We need to go in another direction. We're trying every day. I mean, our country is not perfect. It has never been perfect. It's not perfect now, but we are taking active steps every day. And I think every generation does, to make it a more perfect place and to make it, more equal for everyone and the greatest country on earth, and give people the equality of opportunity that is promised here in America. And I love that you said that, because I think it's so true. We don't ever hear about that. So I don't think people ever think about that. But man, we really have done a pretty good job here at making things, better for a whole host of people. We try to all the time to do it.
100%. I always ask people, where is it that you would rather be? And then the better question is, why aren't you there?
Oh, don't ask them that, because they usually don't have answers. That there were a whole group of people, by the way, who were supposed to move out of this country in November of 2016, who are still here today. Imagine that. This has been a relatively new thing for you, though, because George Floyd, obviously that wasn't that long ago, and you were participating in those marches and those protests. How has your family responded to this? Because I imagine, I don't know, how did they feel about you initially kind of being a BLM activist, and now how do they see things now that you're with PragerU?
I always just say all of the above, everything in between.
Wow.
So when I was a BLM activist, they were all super supportive. They loved what I was doing. And now that I'm on the more conservative leaning side, I have some family members who totally got it from the beginning. They're like, you know what? We've been waiting for people to see this. We're glad that you woke up. We were just letting you do your thing because we support you. Then I have the family members who disagree with me on some things, but they're starting to maybe agree with some of what I'm saying, or they're just neutral. They just stay disinterested, like they just let me do me from afar. But then I also have family members, including one of my own siblings, that have just excommunicated me.
Oh, no.
Like, want nothing to do with me, have not spoken to me in years. And, I just pray for them. I tell them, this is something that's a reflection on you more than it is me, where you're allowing political ideologies and just my perspective of culture to separate a blood bond. That I'm no longer the person that you grew up with. But, time heals. I do believe that time heals, and all I can do is keep living the truth, and hopefully they'll come around to it someday, sooner or later.
Yeah, that's so sad. I have friends who certainly do not view politics the same way I do. And it is challenging. I'll say that. It's very challenging, I think, especially today. It didn't always used to be like that. I mean, this is a relatively new situation in our country, that politics could come between friendships or family. But, we always see the jokes when it's coming around to like Thanksgiving, where it's like, oh, well, don't talk about politics at the table on Thanksgiving or what. But you can't do it anymore because people really get so triggered and people are so dug into to where they are. Do you ever see a place where we kind of get out of this space, the division we're in, and kind of how how it's all gone in this country? Who would have ever thought politics would lead us to where we are now?
I think it's going to happen. It's kind of like this pendulum where things have swung so crazy to the left that now people are starting to wake up like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be having drag shows for babies. Maybe not everything is racist, because terms like racist and bigot and all of those are so watered down now that they just mean nothing anymore. So as people start to identify the pattern that woke culture has, they're starting to become a little less sensitive to it and starting to become a bit more realistic. And I do think that families are going to start reuniting again, because that's the only thing that we can do if we're going to survive as a society. So I do think that is on the way. And you're 100% right about Thanksgiving too, but I'm still bringing my Trump wine to the dinner table.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. By the way, funny story about the Trump wines. At one time in our history, Virginia was like the wine region of our country. I mean, this is back in the inception of America, of course. And for whatever reason, they had a drought or something. It all moved to California. And so we all think of wines here in America as, oh, the best wines come from California. Don't sleep on the Virginia wines. Charlottesville, Virginia is where the Trump winery is. And it's so funny, Xavier, because we send our wines out to the San Francisco Food and Wine Festival every year, and they do blind tastings of the wines. And nothing is greater than when they take off the paper bag and they're like, this is the winner. They take off the paper bag and it's a Trump wine. These people are like, no, it's literally that meme that we always see, like the woman like, no, and when my father-in-law won. It is really a hoot, let me tell you. And so one of these years I'm going to go like in disguise. I tell my husband all the time, because I just want to like physically be there for that moment. So thank you for bringing up the Trump wines, because they're very good. And again, don't sleep on the Virginia wine region. I think people don't know a lot about that. I just want to ask you really quickly about PragerU. And then, you obviously started your journey to completely transforming the way you view things in this country with PragerU videos, because you were going to debunk them. How did you then end up working for them? And did you tell them this first off? Like, how did all that happen?
So I had many conversations with PragerU. I, of course, loved PragerU because of my whole story. A lot of people then assume that because of my backstory that PragerU just handed me the job. Oh, no, no, no. I went through a whole process, and I was very adamant that I wanted the job here. I auditioned to be a personality here about a year ago, and there was a very competitive market of talent here. So I didn't get the initial job, but what I said is, I'm not taking no for an answer. I am going to keep working with PragerU. I kept following up. I said, any way that I can work with you guys, please let me know. So I ended up on Dennis Prager's radio show, and this was the first time I had spoken to Dennis. And it was supposed to be a 5-minute conversation, but we just hit it off. And I told him my whole story, and that 5-minute interview turned into a 30-minute interview.
Wow.
And I said again, I was like, any way I can work with you guys, let me know. So then Dennis said, I want you to do a Stories of Us. So I said, I'm there. So I did our Stories of Us video that's now out. And that was a huge success. And at the end of that filming, I went into every single office. I thanked every single person here at PragerU for what they do, and said, I'm going to work here one day. It's going to happen. Just wait for it. And as I was getting ready to leave, like Uber on the way and everything, the head of production came up to me and said, so we have a potential opportunity for you. And I said, yes, I'm here. Let me know when. And she's like, do you want to hear about it first? I'm like, sure, but I'm here. So then that's when I hosted our kids game show, Guess or Mess. And that ended up being a huge hit. They brought me back a couple more times. And finally, our CFO this year in January gave me a call. He said, Xavier, I think it's time that we change your life. And he gave me the offer. So it was all about due diligence. People take no for an answer way too quickly. And, people just wait for a handout. But I was very adamant and persistent about the fact that I wanted to work here for PragerU, and it's something that I could not be any more proud of.
Wow, I love that. By the way, that's even better that they weren't like, hey, yeah, you started with our videos and then it turned you around in your views. So here's a job. But by the way, I think this is why I really love PragerU, because I mean, they made you work for it, and everyone there is so knowledgeable and so well spoken and really just presents their stories and the facts in such an impressive way. I mean, obviously, I include you in that. And it's funny because whenever I heard your story, it reminded me of Amala Epinobi's story, who actually has a Black Lives Matter tattoo on her. But she at one time was down a completely different path, and then, saw the light, like you're saying, and like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And obviously she's at PragerU as well. So I mean, great stuff. I love it. What's on the horizon for you? Do you have anything coming up we should look for? What can we expect? Other than you changing the world slightly. Go ahead.
Always working on new projects here, especially with our kids department. I'm coming up with new ways that we can market that, make it more creative and reach more of that next generation, because I think PragerU Kids is truly the future. We are impacting so many young kids' lives and raising that next generation of patriots. Of course, working on like some documentaries and all of that. I don't want to say too much just yet.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
Overall,
just a slight tease. I love that. Okay.
yes, just a slight tease. There's always something in the works here at Prager. And I just want to keep impacting culture. I want to be a part of this shift in culture and have a legacy that reflects that. So I'm very excited to see what the next few years have in store for us.
Would you ever run for political office?
I get asked that all the time. Right now in this season of my life, I don't see myself running, at least in the next 10 years.
It's a lovely experience. I'm just kidding. It's like, it's the most horrific situation you'll ever endure. But sorry, go ahead. Maybe one day. I was going to
say, if anyone should know, it's you. You've seen what your father-in-law went through, and seeing the way that the media lies and slanders that man. I don't know if that's something I want to deal with, at least until I'm married, settled down with kids, and life is a little slower paced. If that's even the right way to describe having kids, it's probably faster paced than I imagine.
Not exactly right. I'll send you a video later that'll change your mind. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well, it makes sense. Listen, it is because of, I think, our entire family that being such a cohesive unit and supporting one another, that we've all been able to endure this, because nothing prepares you for the onslaught of craziness and just garbage and nonsense that gets thrown your way. And I think having that foundation and that backbone of people is certainly powerful, and has certainly allowed us to weather the storm, so to speak. And here we are, we're back in another storm, Xavier. I can't even believe it, for round 3, but here we are. So that makes sense. So we'll never say never for you. Yes. We'll see what's coming down soon for you. I mean, obviously, I think it's just so great that that you're out there, that you're in it. You're on TikTok for all of us, because I think you're right. I'm probably not gonna get involved at this point. I'm probably too old anyway. But Xavier DuRousseau, thank you for joining us on The Right View. If people want to find you on social media, TikTok, wherever, where can they find you?
Of course, I'm on pretty much every mainstream platform. I'm at Xavier. It's a regular spelling. It's Xaviaer. That's on Instagram. That's on Truth Social. That's on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And my Twitter is at Xavier D.
Okay. Well, we will follow you and we'll see what else is coming. But thank you for being with us today and sharing your story. We appreciate you very much. And to everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LaraT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.